The death of Moses, how God buried him. The mere mention of the name Moses arouses different images in the minds of various folks. The death of Moses is shrouded in some mystery in the Bible. We know he died at the age of 120, yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. Despite his age, Moses was still in his prime when he was called home. Moses was barred from entering the Promised Land because of his disobedience at the waters of Meribah Kadesh. He led the Israelites to the very edge of Canaan and was given a glimpse of the land, but he was not permitted to enter it. At the end of Moses' life, God gave Moses a glimpse of the land he had left Egypt for. Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah. Mount Pisgah has a summit elevation of 4,500 feet, and that's nearly a mile. There aren't many 120-year-old men who can climb a mountain nearly a mile high and live to tell the tale. On the other hand, Moses is all by himself atop Mount Pisgah. Joshua was not allowed to accompany them in any way, and Aaron had long since disappeared. On the rocky trek to the peak, where there was no discernible trail, there was just one solitary figure to be seen. The next thing that springs up is the security of death. Moses died according to the word of the Lord. The man's life came to an end precisely how God had planned it out all along. Moses passed away by himself, but in peace. The account of his passing is contained within the final 6 verses of the book of Deuteronomy chapter 34. Death has a way of putting things in proper perspective, doesn't it? What a way to live. 120 and you don't need glasses. A century and a fifth and you don't need crutches. Moses never did sit around in a rocking chair rubbing on liniment and drinking Ensure. You can't help but wonder, did those Hebrews who often grumble about him adore him? Or was he just a convenient target who served as a lightning rod for their discontent? Were they inclined to think of him as some kind of distant, profound man of God? The answer is found in verse 8 when he died. Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 8. So the sons of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab for 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. Oh, how the Israelites will miss their late leader's wise counsel. His work among them stirred their emotions to such a degree that it took an entire month for them to mourn his passing after he had left them. But finally that mourning came to an end. That ought to be true in our own lives. After a death comes a burial, and so it was in the case of Moses. But verse 6 contains one of the most remarkable statements about the whole remarkable career of Moses. Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 6. And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no man knows where his burial place is to this day. Moses is the only person in the Bible whom God personally buried. Did you realize that? The Lord then hid the tomb. What made him do that? Because that grave would have been turned into a shrine. They'd still be beating a path up Nebo today, erecting shrines, selling popcorn and peanuts, offering various rides, and maybe even running a tram up there with big banners proclaiming Moses' burial place. So it was concealed. This was so crucial to the Lord that it even sparked an angelic confrontation. Jude verse 9 contains one of the stranger accounts in the Bible concerning this event. Jude writes, But even the archangel Michael, when he was disputing with the devil, Satan, and arguing about the body of Moses, did not dare bring an abusive condemnation against him, but simply said, The Lord rebuke you. It would appear that the devil had his own ideas about what he could do with Moses' body, but God responded, Never. I claim ownership of his body in the same manner that I do his soul, and I intend for the grave to remain undiscovered for all time. The end of the story. All things have their proper wrap-up, as does the story of Moses. Since that time, there has not been another prophet who has arisen in Israel who is comparable to Moses, whom the Lord personally knew. Moses was clearly one of a kind, but at the end of the day, he was just a man serving God. Nonetheless, we can derive a great deal of personal gain from learning about his life and passing.